So let's talk a little bit about Lance Storm, because it's reported here at the beginning of May, quote, after months, if not years of frustration with his role in WWE, Lance Storm announced on Monday on his website that he is retiring as an active wrestler. He has said he's going to be moving into a role as a trainer with the developmental territory, Ohio Valley, and he hopes to eventually move to a position as a road agent with the WWE. And so his final match is going to air on Sunday Night Heat against Stevie Richards. And he's going to cite his frustration with his, quote, lack of contributions, which I guess means lack of push. But also his back problems have been greater lately than he had been letting on. He's got some bulging discs, and it's caused him to miss some house shows. But this is a guy who'd been around forever, you know, Smoky Mountain and ECW and WCW, and now of course here in WWE, but he retired relatively young. Were you shocked to hear that Lance Storm was going to hang him up in 04?
No, he had some nagging back injuries, and there wasn't, I think that Lance was a great guy to have on the card because whoever you put him in the ring with, he's going to have a good match. There just wasn't a whole lot of personality there. And Lance was bland on the microphone. The audience didn't really connect with him. However, when the bell rang, it was hard to find a better performer. Plus he had a skill that not everybody can do, and that's teaching. And with Lance, he was able to parlay what he could do in the ring and teach people how to do it. Now, some of the greatest workers in the world can go out and do it. They just can't tell you how they do it or how to do it. Lance has that skill and tried to hone that to make him a trainer, but it was no big surprise at all.
I guess we should mention Lance retires when he's just 35 years old, which is obviously, you know, before a lot of prime years in professional wrestling. You know, all this time later, of course, he has gone on to become one of the more prolific trainers, and you said teachers. What do you think his legacy in the business is going to be?
You know, hopefully, I think it will probably be his contributions to the folks that he's trained over the years and brought into the business. And, you know, Lance in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, that was his first big national exposure, but Jericho being in that tag team, I think Jericho's the one who took the spotlight there because Chris had the personality. Chris had, you know, that package. And then Lance was the workhorse. Chris was the Ricky Morton and Lance was the Robert Gibson. So as years go by, I would hope that Lance's legacy in the business would be one of his contribution to the business afterward with his training.
There's a lot written about Johnny Ace. And
there is
in the newsletters here. The rise to power of John Laurinaitis, 38, has been notable considering as an active wrestler, most of his experience was in a different culture with a totally different product. As new WWE Vice President of Talent Relations, it solidifies him as one of the most important and most powerful players in the industry. And they do a little bit of a write-up about what his background was and when he broke in and how he bounced around. But they also talk about when he joined WCW, it was happening at sort of a weak point for WCW. Eric Bischoff is the person who hired him to be an advisor and help the wrestlers lay out the matches, as you know, WCW is essentially dying. And it would be written, he got a lot of praise at first from the wrestlers, but those in the company who had high hopes coming from a logical background, since if nothing else, All Japan had logical booking, particularly compared to the WCW nonsense that was killing the product, were ultimately disappointed. He was viewed as more of a politician, never spoke up, and even when the stupidest ideas were presented, he managed to get along great with everyone and keep his job amidst the chaos. When most of the WCW front office wasn't hired after the WWF bought the remnants of the company, Laurinaitis was not only hired, but quickly became second in command and heir apparent to Jim Ross in the talent relations department. So we'll talk a little bit more about his role, but were you shocked when he became the new head of talent relations, or did he take to it like a fish to water? And how do you respond to the criticisms that he had positioned himself more as a politician?
Well, okay. We have a lot of fun here talking about John Laurinaitis, and I've always said this about John, and we joke about it privately, even to this day, that until you've been in the talent relations role, you have no idea. And talent relations is probably the most thankless role in the company. You get all the heat, you get none of the credit. And John went in knowing that and did a hell of a job trying to follow up Jim Ross, who also did an excellent job in the talent relations department. But Jim was on his way out. Jim wanted to move back to Oklahoma, and Jim wanted to do broadcasting, not do as much work in the office. So John was younger, hungrier, and wanted it. I mean, he really wanted to have that position. He wanted that job, and he did a good job. It's not easy. And what people on the outside that have never been there, what they call politicking, is called doing his job. And you're the bad guy. You're the hatchet man. You deliver the shitty news. You're the one that has to give everybody the information they don't want. And it's thankless. It's all 24/7. And John did a good job at that. He really and truly did. Like I said, I love to bust his balls, and we all point to, the fuck ups, like hiring the wrong one-legged man. Oh, he don't have one leg. Things like that. But at the same time, we've all had our fuck ups, and his was just funnier to do because he talks like this and loves Vince's arms. God damn, they're huge. It was for us, man. We were grooming him for that from day one when he came into the company, because he had that kind of an aptitude. He fit well in the office, and he fit well in the locker room.
Talk to me a little bit about the difference in style between a JR and a John Laurinaitis, specifically what they're looking for in talent. I don't think it's a big secret that JR is going to look for legitimate, strong athletic backgrounds, whether it's college football or high level amateur wrestlers, with the idea being, if you've excelled in those sports, you have the mental toughness that is needed to survive in pro wrestling. I think that's how JR would categorize it, but Johnny Ace has a different approach. And one of the criticisms would be that he doesn't value, those athletic backgrounds the same way. And instead he's going to put more of an emphasis on bringing up a certain type of look, whether it's with size or bodies. So we're going to hire some girls who look like they're right out of Playboy, and try to see if we can make something out of them because they're pretty people, maybe more so than they had a strong background. Is that a fair criticism, or how would you categorize the two?
No, because it comes down to what the creative team and what Vince McMahon is looking for at the time. So you try to get into your developmental system as many as you can to have a variety, whether it's the athletic type, whether it's the beauty queen type, whatever that may be. You try to have a choice, and you try to have some variety in the recruits that you're recruiting. It's not Jim Ross didn't have it. I didn't have it. Johnny didn't have it. We didn't have free reign to just go out and hire whoever the hell we wanted. So it was, what are you looking for? Okay, we're going to go out and we're going to find you several of that type and several guys that may fit that, put them in developmental and take it from there. So as far as Johnny and what he brought in, he was brought in what he was asked to bring in. That wasn't 100% his call. And here's what we need. That didn't take place. That was a directive.
So Vince used to really value college football backgrounds, and then he stopped.
He still values it. No, he still values it, and he valued it when Johnny was doing it too. It probably got more press from a JR if you will, because goddamn, I like my college athletes, and JR had a higher value on that. It's not that Vince didn't by any stretch of the imagination. Vince wanted athletes. Vince wanted athletes that could adapt and that could learn the business.